Hi guys, Steve Dempster here, Guitar Evolutions. Good to see you again. Today we're doing the second installment of Rhythm Fundamentals, where we're basically going to be upping the strumming busyness of our strumming hand, which enables you to create even more interesting strumming solutions. And so we're going to get to that right after this. Okay, welcome back. If you recall, in the first installment, if you haven't checked that out, check the card up above. I'll have it there for you. You should look at that first before sitting down to watch this video. But if you've had a look at it, what we were trying to accomplish was establish a structure that you basically hold in your mind as you're playing. And the idea there is map that structure onto your strumming hand so that when you strum, it's happening at specific points within that structure. And of course, in the first example, we were only dealing with the main pulse or the main beats of the structure, 4 of them per measure. And your job was to explore hitting the chords that were listed in the structure, the C, the A minor, the D minor, and the G7, at various points along those beats by eliminating certain strums. Not eliminating the beats. This is critical. When I say, eliminate that strum and then strum on these strings and then don't strum, I'm not talking about eliminating the structure itself. The beat is still in place. It's still going on. Ideally, it's going on in your body. You can feel it as you're playing. And so by exploring eliminating certain strums along that structure, if you're paying attention to what you're creating, you're actually creating some interesting strumming solutions. Now, they may not sound interesting to you right now, but there's tons of songs out there that would actually use the image, the structure of our first video. Here it is right here if you want to review it. All the time. It's just, you don't think of it that way. They just look like they're having a great time playing a song. But the truth of the matter is that each one of the people in that band all have some template going on in their mind. However, that template has been gone over so much that they really don't need to think about it anymore. It becomes a felt experience and therefore fun. So we have to get past this working stage, which I know is a challenge, and get you to the point where this stuff, it looks like it comes out of you intuitively, but you've actually thought it through. Okay, so that was in video 1. Video 2, we're amping the possibilities up a little bit more. So let's get started. Here's an image similar to the one that I showed you in the first installment, video 1. But you'll notice that I've got these little plus signs in between the numbers. Why am I doing that? Simple. When you were playing this, you'll notice that in order for my hand to do a second strum on the pulse, I am tapping my foot here. I know you can't see it. You can probably hear it a little bit. When I was strumming, I had to bring my hand naturally back up again. I know it's very obvious, but you may or may not have thought about this, that when you bring your hand back up to do another strum, you're missing, and you don't hit the strings, you're missing out on an opportunity to add more rhythmic variety to what you're playing. And that's what those plus signs represent. So basically, when you're playing at this stage of the game, your strumming hand will go downward toward the floor at the time that your foot taps the floor. And when your foot comes up, you'll notice that your hand is coming up more or less along with it. It's a very instinctive, natural thing to do. So as musicians, of course, we're going to take advantage of that simplicity, and we'll build it into the way that we are going to strum a guitar. So instead of just hearing this, which is fine, we now, according to this image, we hear this. Earth-shattering, isn't it? It isn't when you hear it, but it is when you hear it and make a connection to what it might look like on paper or in front of you. Now, by the way, this isn't the way, of course, written music is presented to a musician. This is just a sort of a shorthand version of it. But everything in standard musical notation, all the tools we have available, could easily communicate this kind of activity to a musician. And I'm a big fan and advocate of getting guitarists to at least consider learning to read music. It is not essential, but the way the reading and your playing and the natural connection of everything comes together is very revealing. So it doesn't appear earth-shattering, I get it, but when you make some connections between a structure that you can rely on, this image, and the way your hand moves, and you think for a moment about all the possibilities that are available to you to hit or miss strings on this structure, it's pretty impressive what is possible. And chances are you're going to end up perhaps creating a strum pattern, if you will. I call them strumming solutions, that you've heard before that maybe somebody else could have or would have shown you had you not had the ability to do this yourself. So what's happening here, if you can kind of see my lap, basically the lap and the hand are moving together. Whether it's happening fast or really slow, they're happening together. And if I play that image right out, it's simply going to be this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 1. 1 again. Now the way to count that, just so you have it sort of verbally available to you as well, the 1, any of the numbers, but the 1 and the plus sign all make up everything that's happening during the period of beat 1, or I won't say pulse 1 because beat makes a bit more sense, and I'm not going to talk about that here on this video. I'll do it in another one perhaps. But the 1 and the plus sign, they belong together. The 2 and the plus sign, they belong together, etc., etc. And the way you say it is just 1 on the downstroke and on the upstroke. That's just the conventional approach to verbalizing what you're doing. So again, if I play it, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So I get it. Again, it's not earth-shattering, but it could be a strumming solution to a particular tune, depending on perhaps the tempo of it. You could do exactly the same thing at a faster speed and create more energy for the audience to react. So maybe you do this. This is going to go by pretty quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do it again. Now, I'm not covering this specifically in this video. Again, I should do this in another one. But if I take that very same structure that I just played and put a little extra mojo behind the up stroke, in other words, gave it a bit of an accent, it would completely change the feel of that particular strumming solution, which is a new strumming solution. Sounds something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2. Again. And you could do the opposite, of course. You can put emphasis on the down strums or some weird combination of it all. But basically the structure is just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I can't emphasize enough how important it would be to once in a while raise the tempo of it, because when we start looking at some interesting strumming solutions from this structure, you'll find that kicking up the tempo once in a while, once you feel comfortable with it, is a pretty natural way to get it to stick to your ribs, so to speak. It takes on a different feel, and that feel will be what is ultimately getting referred back to when you want to use that. It's not you going, okay, how did that strumming thing go? 1 and 2. It isn't that anymore. Eventually it becomes, oh, okay, it's this thing. If I emphasize the down strokes, I get that. If I emphasize the up strokes, I get that. It's an entirely different beast from the exact same image. The possibilities are crazy here. Okay, I think you get that. Let's move on to the next section. One thing I want to make sure that you're getting comfortable with in this process, even if you're just realizing it for the first time, is that the strumming hand has done nothing so far but move up and or down and up. It hasn't stalled in any strange way based on what we've been hearing. Of course, all we've been hearing is this ongoing kind of a choo-choo train effect, right? So in that regard, the strumming hand going down and up makes a lot of sense. But it will be important as we go to this section next that that strumming hand still maintain that motion. If you stop or stall the hand based on something you're hearing, you've already destroyed the structure around which you can hang this strumming solution. You can get away with it, but it will feel very, very awkward in your body as you try to recover from that. The smoothest, most natural way to produce the vast majority of strums is down and up. After that, we enter into the artistic phase of interpreting down and up, and maybe there's a time when we do want to play everything with down strums and not do it like this. That becomes more of an artistic decision than a mechanical training decision. Right now, we're at the mechanical stage. Down, up, 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 down, up. So we want to make sure the hand stays steady. Okay, if you decided to eliminate stuff from this particular structure, what I would recommend you try to do is pick let's say two aspects, a number and an and, somewhere in the mix of measure one. And then what we'll do, once we get a handle on how that sounds, we'll simply apply it to measure 2, measure 3, measure 4 as we go along. So for example, you could, and I have one written out for me here that I can share with you. And I'm not going to show this to you because this is what I want you to reproduce, although you're free to do that and it will become a strumming solution to something, some song down the road. But what I am going to do, given that structure, is I'm going to continue with my down and up motion of my hand, but I am not going to hit the strings, listen to this now, on the and of beat 1 or beat 2. And you should see an image of that right now, what that sort of looks like. I will also not hit the down of beat 3. I'm going to miss the strings. I'm going to hit the and of beat 3. It starts to sound pretty complicated. And I'm going to hit the down strum on beat 4, and I will not hit the and of beat 4. So let me just show you by ear what that is going to sound like. And in fact, what I'm going to do is put the guitar down for a moment, because rhythm is rhythm. It doesn't require a guitar. It doesn't require strings or chords. Those things just make it sound pretty. But that rhythm that you're looking at in measure 1, if I just clapped it, it would sound something like this. Let me get my pick out of the way here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Oh, I missed the 4. That's the idea, though. You want to go through it attempting to play, clap, what you see. I'm looking right at it here. You guys are looking at it in the image. And you want to reproduce that because there's going to be a relationship between when your foot is tapping. Once again, I know you can't see it tapping, but you can probably hear it. Or that would be the metronome that you love to hate so much, ticking away. And there are instructions on that image that say, given that your hand is moving down and up, here's what you're going to do. Listen to this. This is crazy. Most times you would just play it for somebody and hopefully they'll get it. But here's what actually happened. I played down on beat 1. I strummed down on beat 1. On the and of beat 1, as my hand came up, I missed the strings. Make sure you see that in the image. On beat 2, when my hand came down, I missed the strings. This is a choice. The and of beat 2 I played, that's on an upstroke. Beat 3, I missed the strings. On the and of beat 3, I hit them coming up. And then on beat 4, I played with the downstroke. And on the and of beat 4 coming back up, I missed the strings. That's a mouthful. That's crazy. You might have to describe that to yourself for a while before you get a handle on it. Or maybe you can just hear it once it starts to fall in place and you get it. It's you hearing it and getting it that's important. It isn't important that you be able to say what I just did, although it helps. So here's what this sounds like, very slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. When it's that slow, it's hard to comprehend it. I get it. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit and see if it starts to stick on you a little bit more. Me too, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. 4 and Now I'm beginning to get a better sense of the feel of that rhythm. Da, 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 da. That's what I want to reproduce. I'm going to try it, kick it up in tempo yet again, see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again. What if I went even faster? In which case, you don't want this to keep going faster. Eventually, that'll become uncomfortable, and you'll have to cut that in half, which is what I will do, but I'm not going to talk about that today either, because it's just another feature of rhythm that deserves its own video. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope that's beginning to make sense for you. I could go even quicker, right? I could. The point here isn't to give you a strumming pattern, show you how to strum to a certain song. The point is that you created that yourself, based on an understanding of that main structure with 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and going on. The other point I want to make is that as I'm playing that, you'll notice what my strumming hand is doing the whole time. Despite what you're hearing, it's doing this the whole time. So basically what I'm asking you to do is, as you miss or you're aware of missing certain strings, make sure your hand is moving in the right direction as if you were going to hit the strings. Because this consistent down and up motion of your hand is sort of providing a physical, metronomic sense of where things are happening in the structure. If you stop this motion and you try to recover without a lot of experience behind you, you'll find it very difficult. This provides an even flow. It's much like if you were in a rowboat with a bunch of people. You know, if you're not all rowing at the same cadence, the poor thing, the boat, has a hard time trying to figure out what it is you actually want it to do. But once everybody's in unison and they're moving fluidly together, all of a sudden the speed of the thing picks up and it just cuts through the water like nothing. It's that sort of effect that this hand is providing for your strumming. Now eventually, as you get more and more comfortable with it, your awareness when you miss strings, you don't have to bring your hand up to physically identify where you miss things. You begin to feel that. You already know that that's the case. You get a sense of the overall rhythm. You might notice your hand moves a little bit in that direction or this direction. That's just a reflection of all the training that you've done, but you don't have to continuously move it up and down. I'll give you a quick example of that. This same thing, instead of going, 1, 2, 3, 4. Which does still feel terribly comfortable for me. I could end up doing this. you see it? It looks like after I finish beat one, my hand is stalled for a moment. Absolutely the opposite of what I just asked you not to do. It looks like that, but you'll see little fragments, little leftover fragments of the down and up going on still in the hand. Watch it again. It's very subtle. It's a very natural thing to have happen. Anything you can do to reduce the energy of your strumming and still produce the correct strumming is a good thing, as long as you can do it consistently. Now, of course, this session, like most of my sessions, has a PDF associated with it, and you can find the link to that in the notes below. All you have to do is give me your first name and your best email address, and I'll get the PDF off to you pronto. It's completely free. And in that PDF, at the back of it, there's a link that you can click that will give you a sample sound of what I played in this session. And you can just use that to practice with and get comfortable playing with essentially a band. But there is no band. It's all kind of made up. And that's a little bit more interesting than just working with a metronome, but you work with whatever you have. And if you have none of that, then you can always rely on your own tapping foot to help you out with the whole thing. So I'll leave you a link again in the notes regarding the backing track that you can use to practice some of these strum solutions against. The one that I have in the PDF is the solution I showed you today. Use it if you want, if you like it. It could become your kind of go-to strum pattern, but be careful. I do not want you to feel like just because you get one or two of these patterns under your hands, all of a sudden you can just peel and stick them onto whatever song you want to play. Doesn't work that way. If you're lucky, it might work that way, but you don't know until you start to play. There's some more features you need to be aware of, not the least of which is you do this strumming pattern that I showed you here today on a 3/4 song instead of a 4/4 song, if that makes sense to you, it won't work. It won't work in 6/8, it won't work in 12/8, maybe it might work in 12/8 because it's very similar to 4/4. Certainly won't work with odd time signatures. So there's extra stuff ultimately that you're going to have to consider. It isn't just, here's a thing that I can use and I'm going to try to stick it on every song I could play. That's the last thing I ever want you to believe is true. It is not true. It doesn't work. And when it does work, it's just because you got lucky. Granted, the majority of music out there is in 4/4 time, so you'll find that you could apply this over a lot of songs. But you're still not on the right track because you haven't attempted to reflect the vibe of the song. And if you haven't heard me say that before, stick around for video 3, where I'll start to hint at what I'm talking about when the vibe has to be made aware of in your strumming. Otherwise, it just sounds like a mechanical strum pattern that is being stuck on something. Some of you have asked for some explanation on accenting certain strums in the midst of what you're doing, and I'll perhaps address that in the 3rd video as well, because it does have a big effect on how the strum pattern sounds. And whether you're doing it unconsciously or not, we do want to make it conscious. That's good musicianship coming through. So I hope that has helped to clarify that you do not want to just absorb a strum pattern like what I did here today and go, hey, I've got one, now I can play. Yes, you can. You're not wrong, but it is not by any stretch complete. Okay. There you have it. In video 3, we're going to even go further up the ramp. We're going to get a little more busy with this strumming hand, but the basic structure still stays in place. And this is the beauty of learning this material, is that you're always working from something you already got good at. And now you're just going to rethink that same thing in a different context and try to get good at that. Things are connected together. That's a big part of how I like to teach this material. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, if you like this video, if you found it helpful, you know what to do. Share it around, give us some comments below, like it, whatever, if you're on Facebook watching this, and click the notification bell. Yeah, I forgot about that. Click the notification bell so you can continue to get more of these videos as they are coming out. And if you're starting to get an itch for this whole strumming thing and you want to go even deeper, I've included a link below this video that takes you to my flagship strumming course, where I go really deep into the whole process. It's a much larger chunk of content for you to go through. It is a paid program, but if you are interested in it, go and check that out and see what you think. In the meantime, looking forward to video 3. Steve Dempster from Guitar Evolutions. Learn strong, strum strong. Talk to you soon. Bye.